From Cuba to Paris and even space, we're ready to hit the road with today's edition of CNN Student News. Thank you for coming along. I'm Carl Azus. First up, U.S. Senate votes not to fund President Obama's plan to transfer military detainees from Cuba to the U.S. It was one of his first official acts as president, Mr. Obama announcing his intention to close the military prison at Guantanamo Bay by next January. But Congress, including many members of the president's own party, say they want more details before they'll approve funding for a plan. Dana Bash explores the issue.
No terror suspects at Guantanamo Bay may be released, transferred, or imprisoned anywhere in the U.S. That directive passed the Senate by a stunningly lopsided margin, 90-6. A blow to the president and a stark indication of how uneasy this explosive issue makes lawmakers, even Democratic leaders like Byron Dorgan.
I'm not very interested in transferring detainees from Gitmo to North Dakota. I'm sure many of my colleagues feel the same way, but first let's see what kind of a plan this president proposes, and then we'll move forward.
FBI Director Robert Mueller appeared to affirm senators' concerns, telling Congress bringing detainees to the U.S. does pose risks, even if they're behind bars.
The concerns we have about individuals who may support terrorism being in the United States run from concerns about providing financing to terrorists, radicalizing others.
Still in the raging battle over what to do with Guantanamo prisoners, some lawmakers say they have no problem putting them in federal prisons.
As a former prosecutor, I am aware of the kind of people that we put behind bars in this country. They'd give terrorists a run for their money in terms of being bad, dangerous people.
Good morning, Senator Nelson's office.
But in Nebraska Democrat Ben Nelson's office, most callers on this issue say
not to bring them to Nebraska. So I think that may be true almost everywhere.
Nelson admits there is a not in my backyard fear factor at play, but says it's just inappropriate to imprison and try Guantanamo suspects in the federal system.
I don't think the American people will stand for bringing a bunch of detainees for prosecution over here, and it's in many ways that simple.
See if you can ID me. For years, I've been saving lives and creating thousands of jobs. I work with a network of 24 satellites that circle the Earth. A lot of people use me simply to find out where they're going. I'm GPS, the Global Positioning System, and I'm running 24 hours a day.
But a new report says the GPS may not be running so smoothly as soon as next year. And that is because some of those 24 satellites are in danger of failing. Now for you and for me, disruption of the GPS might be a little frustrating. We might be late getting to a friend's house. But as Elaine Keano explains, for the military, which created and still uses the system, the consequences could be more severe.
Turn left.
From cars
Richmond 911, may I help you?
to emergency call centers, the Global Positioning System has transformed the way Americans live and work. But a report by the Government Accountability Office says some military and civilian users of GPS could be adversely affected unless the Air Force, which maintains the system, gets new replacement satellites soon.
Some of the satellites on orbit have been up there since 1992. They've lived well beyond their design life. It's anybody's guess as to when some of them might fail.
Experts say for most people, a failure would have no discernible impact on, say, getting directions to the local coffee shop. But military operations need accuracy down to centimeters. Congressman John Tierney, who sits on the House Oversight Committee, says that could affect national security.
We don't want to take the risk of having the wrong blind spot at the wrong time.
Congressman Tierney says that's why he recently held a hearing on the matter, to keep government officials on schedule and on budget for maintaining the GPS satellites. Now, in a statement, Air Force officials said they're committed to maintaining at least their current level of service while striving to improve service and capability through ongoing modernization efforts. Elaine Quijano, CNN, Washington.
Changing things up now, some of you may have to travel a little ways to get to school, but students at one Texas institution have to come from another country, and they do it every day. The Lydia Patterson Institute is in El Paso, Texas, but about 70% of its students live across the border in Juarez, Mexico. This is completely legal. Some of the students are American citizens with Mexican parents. Others are Mexican citizens with student visas. The school offers a safe haven from the drug violence that's raging in Juarez. And for students, it provides a sense of security and stability.
When I cross the bridge, I feel like I'm in another home. Like I have a home in Juarez and a home here. My school is it's like home for me because I have the teachers and they treat me like parents. They take care of me. And then I come home at Juarez and they are my real parents. And then I don't feel like it's two countries, but I feel like it's two homes.
Time for the shout out. Which of these structures is the tallest? If you think you know it, shout it out. Is it the Washington Monument, the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, or the Pyramids of Giza? You've got 3 seconds. Go! At 984 feet, the Eiffel Tower stands tallest. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
And that looming landmark is celebrating a big birthday this week, 120 years old. It's not bad for a design that actually started out as part of a contest. It only took about 2 years to build the Eiffel Tower, but in the 120 years since then, it's become one of the most famous icons on the planet. Jim Bitterman pays tribute to the Iron Lady.
It is arguably the most identifiable structure on the planet, certainly one of the most visited. Nearly 250 million people in 120 years, and a 7,300-ton example of a French folie, an architectural extravagance with not a lot of practical use. In fact, useless and monstrous is the way the arts community back in 1889 described the rising bucket of bolts, well, actually 2.5 million rivets, as it grew on the Paris skyline. Critics wanted it torn down. Even Gustave Eiffel himself described it as a 300-meter flagpole. But then radio came along and someone decided it would make a great antenna, a utility the Eiffel Tower maintains to this day for both radio and television. But the Iron Lady, as the tower came to be known, really is most important as something to get to, a destination. And while it may have been built long before man created branding, it is the trademark of Paris.
It's a very strange building with no real use at the time it was built, and in the same times, which is very important for everybody now.
Paris without the Eiffel Tower, it's unthinkable.
Paris wouldn't be Paris. It belongs to Paris.
But the real enemy of the Eiffel Tower isn't the critics or the wear and tear from all the tourists, but rather the weather, specifically the rust. It takes a terrible toll on the iron structure. It has to be repainted every 7 years with 60 tons of paint. And so, as all gathered around to celebrate the birthday of Paris's majestic and long-standing hunk of iron, perhaps a few in the crowd were remembering the words from the lead character in the play Cyrano de Bergerac. It's even more beautiful exactly because it's useless. Jim Bitterman, CNN, Paris.
Well, speaking of birthdays, we have our own coming up. CNN Student News is turning 20 this fall. We have a lot of stuff planned to celebrate, but we want you, especially you teachers, to take part. We are looking for iReports explaining how you use our show, how long you've been using it, how awesome you think it is. You could even see yourself on the show, and we won't even make you get your parents' permission. Just find out how to put together and submit your iReports at cnnstudentnews.com. Well, before we go, a scientific discovery goes old school. And we mean really old, like 47 million years. Say hello to Ida. Hi, Ida. Researchers have spent the past 2 years studying the ancient fossil, which is about the size of a small cat. Ida was originally discovered in Germany in 1983. What's interesting about her is how complete she is, except no one figured that out for a while because she was split into 2 parts. But eventually, scientists were able to put the pieces together, and if you were to ask us, is that the best pun you could come up with? I don't know. But I do know we will see you back tomorrow to close out the week. Bye-bye now.